Rayquaza was one of my first cross-gen runs, but it's really outdated, so we're gonna make it shiny, slap a Mega Evolution on it, and you already know what we're gonna do. We're gonna drop it into Generation 1, and we're gonna find out how overpowered Mega Rayquaza is in Pokemon Yellow. Rules are down in the description. To set the expectations for everybody, let's put this Pokemon into perspective. If you Googled every Pokemon ranked by base stats, Mega Rayquaza is tied for first. We don't need to deep dive, all you need to know is that it's rocking 180 in both special and attack. It's a straight up genetic freak tied only by the Mega Mewtwo's, and I hear you barking, big dog, but we're not going to be counting the Turnamax, What Tarnation, and its 1100 base stat total. That's going to be for another day. I'll cover the new moves, the TMs, and why we're in yellow instead of red later, but for now, just know that the early game is very simple. One bug catcher in Viridian, then it's straight to Brock, where we kind of find out what might be Mega Rayquaza's one real chink in the armor. Like in the original Rayquaza run, and even in Emerald, its Achilles heel is the starting learn set. No generation really gives us a solid early special move, so the Brock fight is just gonna suffer as a result. Even if you had like 255 special, you just can't get past the fact that Twister's still a 40 base power move, and you're not gonna be able to one-shot the rocks. Now this does slow you down just a little bit, but if getting a 7-minute Brock split is like the worst thing in the run, I think you're gonna be eating pretty good. To get us caught up on the Mega Rayquaza lore, let's wrap up the moves. Now first off, don't even worry about the TMs, don't worry your little head about it. Rayquaza, for all you need to know is Rayquaza is basically Mew. If it's a good Gen 1 TM, it learns it, don't worry about it. Now back to the learn set, I gotta spotlight Air Slash first, because on paper, it just looks like an okay, pretty solid 75 base power move, but don't underestimate it. This is the bread and butter of the run. It's the glue that holds together the early to mid game, and it lets Mega Ray do its thing. It's gonna start right here on Route 3, and from here all the way pretty much to Celadon, I'm basically gonna be relying on this to save me a lot of time. Now the only knock is that this move only has 95% accuracy, and while that sounds, pretty good, statistically you're gonna miss 1 out of 20, so when you're using this move like, I don't know, 100 times, eventually you're gonna miss a few times. It can be frustrating, but it is perhaps the best move in this run. Finally, we get to talk about Dragon Ascent. In the original video, I did not have the tech or the coding know-how to make it work, so I left it out, but ladies and gentlemen, it's fully functional now. And before we break down what it does, let me kind of rant for a second. It's called Dragon Ascent, but it's not a dragon move, it's a flying move. And I think if they made this move dragon type, Mega Rayquaza might be the best Pokemon of all time. I'm not gonna get too far ahead of myself, and now I get it. Rayquaza is the sky high Pokemon, but why slap a different type in the name of the move? Like you could call it Heavenly Ascent or something, you know what I mean? It's like if Water Gun was actually an ice type move or Fire Blast was a rock type move. It's silly, but please don't click off the video. We're done with this little rant. Anyway, just to get back to the move, this thing is a 180 effective power tactical nuke with stab, but you gotta plan around it. It only has 5 PP, and as we hit the Fossil Nerd of Mount Moon, you're gonna see the price that you pay for using this move. The reason Dragon Ascent wasn't in the original run was because it's a self-nerfing move, which is an effect that doesn't exist in Gen 1. And I would say that the penalties are no joke. Now after using it, your special and your defense will drop by 1 stage each, which is way worse than it probably sounds. It made some of the late game fights a real headache to plan, like if you wanted to use a special move in the middle of the fight, but you gotta open up with Dragon Ascent. Now the special move won't one shot, so on and so forth. Now with all that said, I would be lying if I said this move wasn't extremely satisfying to use. I absolutely love using it. There's also one more drawback that I'll cover near the end of the video. It's nothing really to worry about now, but we'll come back to it. Just like Mewtwo, Ray's gonna hold off on Misty until it gets one-shot ranges for a faster overall fight, and really just because it does really well going the other way. What a lot of these early game fights come down to is a 3-tiered decision-making structure. Number 1, use Twister if you have the range to save power points, because Air Slash only has 15 PP. Number 2, use Air Slash if Twister can't one-shot. And number 3, use Dragon Ascent if number 1 and number 2 don't apply, and just obliterate the Pokemon off the planet with it. Like right here in Rival number 2, Twister has no ranges, and Dragon Ascent is needed for both the Sandshrew and Eevee for a pretty simple fight overall. Hey, did you guys know that if you took every trainer in the game and lined them up, that Nugget Bridge and the path to Bill's house will form the single highest cluster of mandatory battles in the entire game? Crazy. Like I said earlier, Ray follows the same route Mewtwo did, skipping Misty, because even when we're under-leveled, like really under-leveled here, we're still gonna one-shot 99% of everything. Now this gauntlet will help us catch up on XP, which is huge because Ray's in the slow level up group, and let's be real everybody, the slow level up group sucks. But before we dive deeper, here's why I'm playing Pokemon Yellow instead of Red. Now the short version is I am experimenting. I'm in an experimental stage in my life right now, and my rule of thumb usually for swapping versions has two little parts. Number one, do you get a faster Brock split in Yellow? And number two is your Pokemon strong enough just to ignore the fact that the last 7 or so fights have better learn sets? Move sets, I should say. Rayquaza technically qualifies for this, but it has a fast Brock split no matter what, basically. Unlike something like, let's say, Tauros or Clefable, we're only saving like 2 or 3 turns tops by switching version. So the bottom line really is I wanted to play Yellow. I know all the other cross-gen runs have been in Red, but honestly, it doesn't really make a huge difference. I'll kind of let you decide at the end. Jumping into Misty, the only real challenge is PP management up to this point. Staryu's gonna drop basically with whatever you throw at it. And doing Nugget Bridge first makes Dragon Ascent guarantee the one-shot on Starmie. Now there is one caveat here. It's a speed tie, so if Misty goes for like a turn 1 Harden, wins the speed tie, or pops the next defend, you might lose a few turns. Otherwise, pretty straightforward fight. After the battle, we pick up Bubble Beam, and it's an instant learn it type situation. It's a great coverage for a few spots, especially since Ray doesn't get something like Psychic or Psycho Cut like Mewtwo. And from there, I'm just gonna be booking it down to the SSN, skipping everything inside, and after steamrolling a very easy rival number 3, we can talk about Lieutenant Surge. Believe it or not, this fight is kind of shocking. I probably need to pause the footage because this is actually like a 6-second battle, but yeah, you're outsped, that's the main thing. And since Electric resists flying, there's no guaranteed answer here. Now this is the first time Dragon Ascent stat drops really hurt. Basically, if Raichu hits you really hard on turn 1, it's gonna hit even harder on the next turn and even harder after that. In a vacuum, 2 Dragon Ascents do get the job done, but it's risky. Here's the worst case scenario, like a turn 1 Growl. This can give Raichu like 3 extra turns, and you're weaker after every single turn. And I'm not trying to overhype this fight, I'm just saying in practice there was a lot of like Shrekian level layers to this fight. In the actual battle, the opening Mega Punch does some solid damage, and the solution here was to use Dragon Dance. I learned it at level 18, I didn't really talk about it until now, but it boosts attack and speed by 1 stage. The speed part lets us outspeed, minimize the damage we take, and take control of the fight. It goes pretty smooth, but even still, just look at this. I finished the fight at 26 HP before I level up, so it was really actually close. Before we take a look at the progress, I need you guys to know that I have software that records my split data after every gym, and I forgot to use that software for this run, and I had to manually scrub through the footage and manually subtract the split times for comparisons. It was extremely tedious, and I just want somebody out there to know, and I'm talking to myself in the future, in the past, however you're doing it right now, do not ever forget to use this software. I'm begging you. With that out of the way, let's look at the split data itself, and it's very interesting. With Twister, we had a slower Brock split as expected, resulting in a 43-second deficit, but Mega Ray actually starts to regain all that time, basically by virtue of simply one-shotting the Starmie, and we actually have a very slim early lead. And when you take into account that Mewtwo opts to get Body Slam, we're looking at something extremely rare right now. Generation 1 Mewtwo, in my opinion, is the best version of any Pokemon to ever exist. That's why these runs go against Mewtwo. That's why we have the Mewtwo bar, you already know. But we rarely ever see this Pokemon behind, much less behind by an entire minute. But we all know, you don't crown a Pokemon this early at the Surge split. There's a lot of game left to play, but this is pretty much as good of a start as anybody could hope for. And we're just gonna go straight into some rare rock tunnel talk in a run like this. I'm holding off on Thunderbolt for this run because, believe it or not, Bubble Beam is kind of like an unsung hero of this run. Thunderbolt is notoriously great in the late game, but before that, its only real use is for Slowpokes, attacks in these little section right here, but Dragon Ascent can just turn them into dust anyway. And Bubble Beam specifically shines on fights like the Boomer Hiker. Twister is just simply too weak, and essentially it has no use in the run outside of being the only special move we have on Brock. And the long and short of what I'm trying to say is that Bubble Beam alone saves you like 8 or 9 turns in this run. Getting straight into that mid game, we're going to do the Celadon buy real quick. It's the bare minimum, but there are some new tweaks here. In yellow, I now believe that buying Great Balls to catch a Doduo so that you can cut out an early game mark buy is the best way to go about things. Now there are several things like not getting the Squirtle that have came to light with the Mew race, but I'll go into more detail in that video. I'll probably bring this up multiple more times, but I have learned several new wrinkles in Pokemon Yellow, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to experiment with this run. Not really much to say about Erika. I just go straight Air Slash. It's all one shots, and that's the commentary. At level 27, we do learn Body Slam, and I'm actually going to replace Air Slash. So doing this now, this gym fight now, to maximize the Air Slash usage was something that I did on the fly. We'll talk about that right now, actually. Next up is the Rocket Hideout, and let me just elaborate on what I just said. Doing things on the fly. Now, while I'm saving a ton of yellow tech for the Mew video, one thing I'll talk about now is keeping your bags full so that gym leaders skip their dialogue. It's not new tech, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. In the Mew video, when we get to that eventually, or if it's already happened, I don't know, I'm gonna do that in the Mew video and even talk about how I need to test it out. And I don't know if this is the past or the future, so this could get weird, but I use instant text, and in that Mew video, I talked about how I need to test it. Well, here's the answer. I tested it for you. It's tested in this video right here. The original route that I ran when I did my first 3 runs and I was ready to make a video, and I decided to jump back in, I held off on Erika. I did everything else, including Silph just to set up my bags perfectly, and the run culminated in just blitzing through the last 5 gym leaders, skipping their TM text, and I believed that to be the fastest route, but I decided to do this run just to see. I had the framework for a route already in place, but there were lots of instances where I just went off of instinct, like fighting Erika pretty much immediately. I moved some things around, and my definitive conclusion is that if you're in the slow level up group, getting experience and being certain levels is far more valuable than skipping a few lines of text from the gym leader. Now let me reiterate that skipping gym leader TM text is a time save, but it's just way less significant if you use instant text specifically. I think if you can fit that in without impacting the run, it's probably fine, but in the case of this run, it was a detriment and it did slow me down pretty significantly. With all that said, this is also another good section where Bubble Beam shines. It's pretty good. Remember, I actually do the Rocket Hideout and I have to fight Giovanni, but I did want to take this time right here to talk about gym leader text because it's something I have been looking into for a little bit. Now it's time to clean up some easy sections. Rival number 4, pushover like always, but Body Slam is actually for the Magnemite and the Magnetons coming up if you're wondering. And the Ghastlies are no problem if you keep 2 Dragon Ascents throughout this little section. And after that, we're going to go down to the Safari Zone, pick up these standard items like the final HMs of the run. But I would like to talk about one more thing. This is going to be a trilogy and a redo of the Weather Trio runs. The goal is to do this run and eventually follow up with both Primal Kyogre and Groudon. All those runs, just like this one, are dated, and this is kind of where I landed on the decision, hey, do I redo them or do I spice it up with things like Primals and Megas? Here we are. Now in those runs, the original, they were all extremely close to each other, with Groudon being the best, Kyogre really close in second, and Rayquaza bringing up the rear. So that's why we're starting with Ray today if you're curious, but be ready in the future, in the coming months, for some extremely powerful runs. Heading towards Koga, this is like another audible from the original route, but the reason is because it's really efficient because Rayquaza is a monster. Simple as that. I often mention the jugglers and the psychic types in Koga's gym, and I can just kind of take them on with no setup, make it as simple as possible, and this made the most sense for me because when you look at Koga, it's a thing of beauty. You save all your Dragon Ascents and you just let it rip. Now there is one takeaway, even though you're just obliterating all these little bugs and you're wondering why Koga has about 47 Venonats, you gotta remember, guys, that you're lowering your special, you're lowering your defense each time, and by the time we make it to Venomoth, here's the one thing to look at. Look at how much damage this Psychic does, but I think if you take a step back and you realize that we're taking out a level 50 Pokemon at level 32, I think you'll understand that Rayquaza is a pretty special Pokemon. Now I'm going to Silph, and originally I've already brought this up a couple of times. I was skipping Erika and doing this directly after Pokemon Tower, but I had to use early candies, and I'll get into exactly why using candies early was just awful, but there is one thing that I want to gloss over. I'm initially getting to Rival 5 as fast as I can, getting through here as fast as I can, but I'm still going to get Swords Dance and Earthquake, but I'm going to get them after Giovanni. Like I said earlier, this is something that I'll elaborate more on in the Mew video, but I don't want to jump scare you guys later when I randomly learn Swords Dance and Earthquake like really soon. But like I've said a lot already, the Mew video goes over these little time saves a little bit more meticulously. Rival number 5, we'll call it what it is. It's a concession. It's not as fast as it could be if you utilized all of your resources, but it's normally fine. It's a fine fight. I say normally because Sandslash goes God mode here with back-to-back slashes taking me almost to red health, but I should be fine because I've already set up. I start the sweep, but since I'm at such a low level here, I'm going to crit on Magneton and it's going to live, and it's going to get off a neutral Thunder Shock, and it does a decent chunk of damage, but I do live with 20 health, and I'm able to clean up the fight and get past a pretty close battle. Sabrina is going to be the last instance of Dragon Dance in the run. I take out Abra because no one wants to get hit with a flash. No one wants to be flashed by Abra. I set up one Dragon Dance pretty much exclusively for the speed to outspeed Alakazam, but Kadabra rocks me with a Psychic Crit, but like we've just seen, Rayquaza, it's just fine. Even when I'm severely underleveled, I pull out the broom, clean up the fight, and we grab another badge. After the battle is the big shift in the learn set. Like I said earlier, I grabbed Swords Dance and Earthquake after Giovanni number 2, and I'm gonna learn them both right here, right now. And after I grab Strength and I get the Warden candy, I'm gonna pop all of the rare candies I have to hit level 44, and that's extremely significant in Pokemon Yellow. That's gonna take us on a brisk swim down to Cinnabar, and if I had one critique about this run, doing it on the fly, I think I probably could have held off on the rare candies in Pokemon Mansion, because just like being level 44 is very important here, I'm gonna end up missing an important breakpoint in Victory Road that we'll talk about when I get there. But just to touch on level 44, it's simply to avoid encounters. There's a ton here, there's higher level overall than what's in Pokemon Red, and if you aren't at least level 44, you're gonna see a lot of them. There is one singular rare encounter with a level 46 Raticate on the bottom floor, but I think it's rare enough that you don't really need to stress about it. But in the original route, I was just a lowly level 39 during this part of the game, and the massive amount of encounters I had here was the exact reason that I decided to do one more run and make sure that I was the correct level here, because the time loss is insane, and this is like a little foreshadowing here. We're gonna see exactly, we're gonna go into the numbers for that a little bit later. Outside of that, I asked Rayquaza in all of its little infinite mega wisdom if he knows if TM28 is actually Tombstoner, brother, or not, but to no one's surprise, he has no clue. He looked at me and he said, "What are you talking about?" Blaine is a very simple fight. One Swords Dance, hold down the Earthquake button and you win. I do get Confuse Raid early, but I get lucky, snap out of it pretty quick, and just like that, 7 badges are down. Giovanni was close mainly because I stopped healing just to really push the time, but I get rid of Dugtrio immediately. I don't want to get Sand attacked. I use Dragon Ascent, and I'm going to need at least one setup on the Persian, and Disaster strikes again with a slash, but Rayquaza has proven to be resilient time and time again. I survived with just 17 HP, and things might look bad, but the battle is pretty much over. I can sweep with Earthquake, and I can use Bubble Beam at the end on Rhydon, even though I do have a self-induced special drop, and Rayquaza has obtained all of the Kanto badges. Let's quickly talk about rival number 6, and the path to victory is very easy. Set up once and destroy everything. That's pretty much it. Now, I get poisoned early, which doesn't really matter a ton because it's never gonna tick because I'm gonna one-shot everything pretty much. But between Dragon Ascent and Earthquake, I just mow down everything that moves. Now let me talk about something very important. Just like Pokemon Mansion, we just talked about it, there's an important level to be inside of Victory Road, and that's level 50. I'm level 49. I did this run on the fly, so I really had no clue what level I would be here. I hoped it would be level 50, but it wasn't. Now what this means is I'm gonna have a grand total of 3 wild encounters inside of Victory Road, and you might not think that's a big deal. You might look at it and say, who cares? 3 encounters doesn't really matter, but it does take a bigger toll if you look at the numbers. Each wild encounter from start to the finish of the battle screen until you actually regain control of your character is about 14 seconds. Now, you have 3 of those on top of the fact that I had to heal before taking on rival number 6. Those things are ultimately what's going to swing this run, and here's what I'm talking about, sadly. Rayquaza played a wonderful route today. It was great, and you're going to see a ton of green splits down the board, but when it's all said and done, Mewtwo is still hanging in there close. With those 3 wild encounters at 14 seconds a pop and having to heal and then learn Thunderbolt, it was just too much to overcome, and now Mewtwo finds itself with the lead once again, and it's by a large margin now, 1 minute and 12 seconds. So Rayquaza is gonna have to dig deep if it's gonna overcome this. And you might be saying to yourself, let's have a discussion real quick. You might be saying, you messed up. I routed bad, and you'd be correct, but I cannot stress enough that this was an overtime extra run that I did past my usual 3 playthroughs, and even though I made this mistake, this run overall was 2 minutes faster than the other route. And if it makes anybody feel better, I'll talk about this at the end. The 52 seconds I lost from Victory Road, it's a mistake. I own that. Definitely something you would look at if you did this again, but even those 52 additional seconds, if we gave them back, it would not change the outcome of today's run, and ultimately, that is why I decided to leave it as it is. So I say we just move on to the Elite Four. Now there's a reason why I was willing to do Lorelei as low as level 48 despite the double weakness to ice, but first I want you to look here. Does anybody know why Dugong would go for rest on turn 1 here? I can't figure this out. I know she has a great chance of using rest turn 2, but I didn't change the code. Everything's just like it always is, so it's kind of just a mystery for now, and I guess I'll research it later, but it's weird. But this fortuitous event does let me call an audible on the fly to save some PP. Now I can just go straight Thunderbolt for the first 3 Pokemon, whereas normally you could not because of the special drop from Dragon Ascent, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. We make it to Jinx, I use EQ, and then when it comes to Lapras, I just use Dragon Ascent. I sealed the deal, but I think this was a really weird fight. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but that turn 1 Dugong was very strange. Next up is Bruno, and since I had the luck on Lorelei, I decided to go a different route here. I am going to use 1 Swords Dance, and this is just going to let me Earthquake Sweep. Now, for whatever reason, everybody knows Bruno's just kind of dumb. The Onix goes for Dig on a flying type Pokemon, so instead of wasting a turn, I just set up 1 more additional Swords Dance, and this lets me just go straight Earthquake rather than use Dragon Ascent at the end on the Machamp. Basically all there is to say about this battle. Believe it or not, Agatha is the easiest fight of the run. Even if I did have to set up, the first Gengar doesn't have Hypnosis. For me personally, I think that the yellow version Agatha is much weaker than the red and blue version. No one ever talks about that, but this is the easiest battle like I just said. Just Earthquake for everything and then just use Thunderbolt on the Golbat. That's the battle. That's everything you need to know. Let's move on to Lance. I don't think what I'm about to say is going to be a surprise to anybody, but Lance is actually very easy too. Who would have thought Rayquaza having very easy battles? But the thing that makes this very guaranteed and very easy is that Gyarados is locked into using Dragon Rage. Now 40 points of HP, it's not the worst damage in the world, but it's just not a lot. So even if you needed to set up like 3 times, you could, but I only need 1 setup here. We got Thunderbolt for Gyarados, Aerodactyl. I can just use Earthquake on the Dragonairs, and then I got a little hefty Dragon Ascent at the end for Dragonite. And just like that, my friends, that's going to leave us with 1 last battle of the run. Before we get into the delicious commentary, what do you guys think I'm going to say? If you guessed that I said that this is a pretty easy battle, you would be correct because we have everything that we need, and just like every other fight, we only need 1 singular setup here. I do take a lot of damage, and I have not really healed, so I'm already kind of low, so it looks kind of bad, but we've seen this a lot of times in this video already. Get my setup, use Dragon Ascent, and we're ready to go. We're cooking now. Earthquake and Dragon Ascent is a wonderful combo. I probably could sit here and think about what actually resists it, but in terms of just this playthrough, they felt really good. one or the other always worked. And when you can do things like one-shot the Executor with ease without even thinking about it, that always feels really good to me. And we just progress through the fight. And our special's massively debuffed right now. We could never one-shot the Cloyster, but Dragon Ascent is such a strong move. And with all these little badge boosts and the Swords Dance, I'm at 651 attack. So Dragon Ascent can just outright one-shot the Cloyster, which is normally the tankiest Pokemon in the entire game defensively. And that's pretty much a wrap. Flareon gets off a quick attack that honestly does some pretty impressive damage, but to finish us off in style, Rayquaza is going to use one last Dragon Ascent, and that is going to end the run. Or at least this would be the end if I was a little sniveling coward. I think it would be very easy to slap Mega Rayquaza into the number 5 slot and just call it the top ranked dragon and just walk away feeling kind of good, but honestly, I think I would regret that. There's a lot more potential here. I made some mistakes, so I dove back in. Now, we've seen it before. I'll go above and beyond for certain Pokemon, especially if I think I personally mess up, and Rayquaza is getting that extra attention for one reason. My first 3 runs took a route that wasn't that great, wasn't that optimal, so when I did an impromptu run and it outperformed the first route, I knew that there was still a lot left on the table, so I got back to the grind. And really, if you look at it, there wasn't much to change. I kind of nailed the route skeleton on the first run, early Erika, doing Koga early, saving candies, all that stuff was great, and the main improvements were just from refining a few sections and cleaning up my inventory since I was still using the other, like the full bag route. I ended up doing 2 more runs. I got kind of unlucky in the first run, but I still saw some promise. So let's just kind of hit the high points because most of the route plays out pretty much the same. There were a lot of small move choice tweaks to make fights more consistent, maybe a little bit faster, some damage ranges I didn't really take a look at, and Surge is the first big change. I already talked about them, but I can't stress enough. This fight goes bad really fast if you don't know what you're doing. Now, I ended up changing the strategy to a double Dragon Dance setup to guarantee the one-shot with Dragon Ascent, so I would avoid the stat drops and the high risk of just being knocked out here. I've already mentioned this, but we still do stuff like hit Erika early, we go straight to Koga after Pokemon Tower, and then once again, I'm still gonna wait until after Silph to grab Swords Dance and Earthquake. Now, the key time saver for this run was better menuing. This is a really tough thing to pull on the fly when you're just playing the route for the first time, but small things like this, grabbing the Warden candy, and you can stack that with the TM use, with the candy use, and it all just kind of adds up to a cleaner, more efficient routing process. And this is something that you just can't do the first time you do a new route. Another small time saver was PP management and being more precise, like burning through all of Air Slash's PP right before learning Body Slam at Erika. That helped out a lot. And getting through the late game areas like Silph, Sabrina, Blaine without healing at all and just kind of taking a risk just to push the time, it felt really nice. The final stretch of the run is where the big changes come in, the little wrinkles come through. I was right in my assessment that I need to hold off on the Pokemon Mansion candies. And I'm going to keep it real with you guys. That 52-second in-game time loss from the 3 encounters, it haunted me. So to make up that gap, I had to resort to, don't tell anybody guys, I had to resort to the forbidden technique, an optional battle in a cross-gen run, the horror. I did an extra trainer. Now technically the single Machoke trainer that's off to the side in Giovanni's gym would be the most efficient, but I went with the grown-up Light Years Junior trainer, the one with the Doug Trio and the Sand Slash, since he's on the path and it's 2 easy one-shots, and that's going to be all the experience that I need. I mop up Giovanni, and since I know the range is a little better now, I can just auto spam Earthquake, even on the ride-on. And after rolling through rival number 6, I hit level 48 at the end, and here's where I use the final 2 rare candies, and that's going to get me right where I need to be. And I cannot stress this enough. I'm stressing a lot of stuff, I feel like, but you have to be level 50 in Victory Road in Pokemon Yellow. You saw what happened in that first run, or at least I talked about it. I probably didn't even put the footage up. 3 wild encounters is a ton of time loss, and hitting 50 lets you just stroll through here casually. And up to this point, I had already saved a lot of time not even counting this stuff. And I want to bring up the split data from the first run once again. I want to talk about this. Now you can just see the gap going from the 34-second lead on Giovanni up to a 1 minute and 46-second swing to being down by the time I reached the Elite Four. And that just didn't sit right with me. And there's no reason that you should bleed that much time in one split, especially something as simple as Giovanni to the Elite Four, but here we are. I think this is a great example and like a great look into how split data actually helps me spot a problem or a problem area that I could work out a little bit better, but this time I'm well ahead. And not only did I save a ton of time, the Elite Four is going to be even easier because I hit that level 50 damage rounding threshold. And I'm not sure what was up with Lorelei in the first run, but we do see how well Mega Rayquaza can tank double super effective damage here. What felt kind of like, I don't know, maybe luck in the first run, now felt really guaranteed. One Swords Dance lets me just go straight Thunderbolt for the first 3 Pokemon. I can clean up, move on. The only other battle that kind of changed was the champion battle. Using an elixir beforehand lets you just run a very, very simple, straightforward strategy. Set up once on the Sand Slash, use Dragon Ascent. I'm going to use Earthquake on Alakazam. I'll have 4 Dragon Ascents left. I can just go to it and I can just hold down the button and just win automatically. Even Magneton, who resists it, will go down in just one hit, and that means we get to see something that we haven't seen on this channel in a pretty long time. Mega Rayquaza finishes with a time of 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 38 seconds, and ladies and gentlemen, we now have only the second Pokemon outside of Mega Mewtwo Y to pass the Mewtwo bar. It was very close, only 11 seconds, but that's enough to give Mega Ray a tier card rating of 100.16. I think I'll probably round that up to 100.2, just barely edging out the best of the best. And honestly, it feels kind of poetic. I opened up this video telling you that Mega Rayquaza and the Mega Mewtwo's have the highest base stat totals in the game, and now here they are sitting at number 1 and number 2 on the tier list. I'm very glad that I delayed finishing this video. It's really easy just to say to yourself, that's good enough, people's gonna like it, I can just edit it and upload it, it'll be fine. But the truth is, I would rather take my time, keep doing runs, chipping away, and really trying to show like the potential of the Pokemon rather than focusing on the content itself. Putting out subpar runs just for the sake of fueling the YouTube machine is something that other channels already have on lock. And I would like to think that we have a higher standard here. Now, if this is how the remakes of the Weather Trio begins, it's really hard to imagine how the other 2 primal forms will perform later, but I'm really excited to find out. Now, by now, I think I'm probably at least close to, or maybe even surpassed 20K subscribers. I might have already done a community post on it, I'm not sure. I would probably want to get a little bit past it so you don't go back down and it's kind of awkward, you know what I mean? But seriously though, guys, I really do appreciate it. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch my content. Special shout out to my channel members and patrons. The support really does mean a lot. And I'm about to finish up a semester at school, but I'll be cooking up something real nice very soon. Bye.